Welcome to Fashion Neurosis, 릭오웬스. Thank you so much for being on the couch.
It's my pleasure.
Could I ask you why you chose what you're wearing today?
Oh, I like a uniform. I just turned 62, and so I kind of somewhere inside me, I'm still the flamboyant 19-year-old, but I feel like I need to have a little bit more dignity. And the other thing is, I think when your face changes as you get older, like the lines and the creases, I think they can get a little messy if your clothes are too messy, and you need to kind of set it off with something a little bit more tailored.
I totally agree with that. I think I used to wear a lot of vintage, but as I've become more vintage, I don't want to look like the old
Exactly.
clothes. So
Yeah,
I'm
totally.
right with you.
And then I always wear the heels when I go out because it's my protest. It's kind of my protest against judgment and judgment in general. It's kind of to mock the judgment that we're all subject to that's so pervasive right now. It's always been there, of course, but now with online criticism, that kind of judgment is just such an overwhelming wave that I kind of feel that I have to promote my values, which have always been about that I want to be the guy that provides options to our standard aesthetics, which can be kind of narrow and sometimes cruel. And I mean, I keep repeating this, but I feel like that's kind of become the role that I want to have. I want to be somebody that champions alternative aesthetics to the people who don't see themselves reflected in our standard aesthetics that are stridently proposed in airport beauty and perfume aisles. I've come to kind of realize that when you travel around, that has become the global standard of beauty and aspiration. And that kind of irks me. So I want to be the opposite of that. I want to balance that out when I'm at the airport. I want to be the alternative to that. And it's not like I want to eliminate that aesthetic because it has value and it's beautiful. I don't disapprove completely. I just want to make sure that there is another option and that hopefully I can balance it out.
Do you actually have a presence at the airport?
No. So maybe it's just sour grapes. Maybe
No,
that's
I
maybe I'm
agree
being
that
bitter.
it seems particularly the level of disapproval sort of en masse at the moment, not just in the fashion world, but in all the world seems very, very intense and hectoring. And I've noticed that you seem like a radical, but it's very generous and gentle the way you invite people into representing them, you know, how you've just described. And I think there's it's very lovely. And that's why I've always felt sort of drawn towards you. I remember first really meeting you properly when we went to the animal ball at Clarence's house with then Prince Charles and Camilla. And I saw you and Michele arrive and I thought, I'm sticking with them. And you graciously allowed me to just hang on. And I had such a fun time. I remember us going around and looking at the paintings and it was great, but you're quite an amazing figure and you're very generous with that.
I always think Michelle's the amazing figure, and I'm kind of just, carrying her purse.
Well, you do it very well.
But she's in New York right now. She is the dynamic one who travels all over the world doing these furniture installations and installing furniture in people's houses and organizing an exhibition in Dubai or Marrakesh or New York, while I'm just at home taking a nap. So that's how we do the furniture.
That sounds great.
And she's turning 80. Well, she already turned 80 February 5th.
Yeah, I went to her one of probably many birthday dinners
Where?
at Ladbroke Hall down the road from
Oh,
here.
right. And she played the piano.
I missed her playing the piano.
Well, maybe that was another party there, but I saw online, because that's how I keep track of her a lot online. And I saw her. There's this song that she used to sing in the cabaret of the restaurant in Hollywood, when we were living in Hollywood, and it was called the King Kong Blues. It was about drinking a drink called King Kong and getting high on King Kong. We lived across from the cafe, and at night, like while I was going to sleep, she would be ending the night there, and I could hear from across the street, I could hear her singing the King Kong Blues while I was going to sleep, right off Hollywood Boulevard. Anyway, she sang this at Ladbroke Hall, but they kind of rigged something up so they I don't know where they got the music, and they had backing music, and it looked like she was singing the piano. And I got FOMO. I mean, I wanted, like, it looked so glamorous and so great. I can't believe I missed it. Anyway, she turned 80 February 5th, but she tells me she wants to have a party on April 17th.
That's my birthday.
Really?
Yeah.
Because, well, then come celebrate with us, because
Yes.
I'm throwing her a rave at the Lido airport in Italy, because it's the beginning of the Biennale, and that's when all
God.
her friends were going to be there, and so she thought it would be fun to have a birthday rave in the Lido. So
That sounds so much
April
fun.
17th, pencil it in.
Pencil it in. Do you have any obsessions at the moment?
Do
I
I
mean,
have
it
any
sounds like you have millions, but anyone in particular right now?
Do I have obsession, you mean of people?
Or just is there anything that's sort of a recurring thought at the moment? It could be a person or a shoe or just like a feeling almost. I just wondered.
Okay, well, I'll tell you about my day. How's
I
that?
love that.
Okay, so today I got in last night
Where from?
from Paris. So I got in last night to Claridge's, and this morning I got up, and it was such a beautiful day. I wanted to go for a walk, and I thought, oh, I'll walk to the Victoria Albert. So, and I'll walk through the park, and I'll stop at the Row, where I've never been. I've never been to that store, and I admire what they do. And I knew that it was right around the corner from Claridge's, so I go to the Row. And have you been there
Yeah.
to their store?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It
Oh,
used to
it's
be an art
beautiful.
gallery.
It was really lovely, and I was just chatting, and I mean, I'm sure everybody thought I worked there, everybody that walked in. I was
Maybe
just
they hoped you did.
wandering around, making them show me everything, and I had the loveliest time, and the quality and everything looked great. It was really beautiful.
Have you ever tried on any of their clothes?
I haven't. I don't know that it would really, because I thought there was a shirt. There was a beautiful cashmere shirt, and I thought, how come we don't have a beautiful cashmere shirt like that?
Yeah, same. I think, oh, I love what they do, and the way it sort of cascades over your body. But I tried on a knitted jumper, a knitwear piece once, and I just vanished. The jumper took over. I became a random middle-aged woman, and I thought, oh, good, there's space for all of us, even though it's so desirable and alluring what they do. It's good to know that it doesn't work for everybody.
Well, I actually think I'm going back for a purse. This purse, the leather is just so juicy and tender and delicate, and the strap was so thin and pretty. I just thought, oh, this will, I can keep vitamins or something in it in my dressing room, because it's such a beautiful little pouch, and it was so exquisite. Anyway, so I did that, and I was listening to Shirley Horn, and I've been listening to Shirley Horn for the past a couple of albums. This song called Estate. I've heard a couple of different versions of it, and I was listening to it a lot in the summer. I wish I remembered all of the words, but it's very much about acceptance. She's talking about is like loving summer and missing it, but it's underneath the cover of winter. And it's about remembering love and yeah, anyway, it's a very tender, very moody thing, but it's about time passing
Mm.
and acceptance. And that's something I'm kind of very conscious of these days, of the things that I wanted to pursue 5 years ago that maybe not the things I want to or not the things I should pursue.
To do with the natural progression of having a fashion empire, what sort of steps go after each other, or more personal things that you thought you were pursuing?
Oh, I think this was more personal. This wasn't really about work.
Mm.
The work, I don't know. I don't think I really change about my perception about work. I feel the same urgency, the same, and it's almost rage that I had when I started. I feel like there are things that I want to see that are not out there that I want to see, and so I have to make them myself. And there's things that I want to promote aesthetically, and it probably has a lot to do with ego, I'm afraid, that I want to modify or customize everything around myself. I assume it's some kind of search for control and some search for
Immortality? Yeah.
immortality. Immortality.
Because wanted to ask you, because one of the signatures, your signatures as a designer, is how you emphasize proportion and how you show, like in your last show for men and women, and you had this, like the lower leg, like this pillowy, or like you're wearing today, this sort of boot cut leather of the knee down proportion. And it's so graceful and unusual. And you seem to have this sort of amazing ability to exaggerate or change proportion, and you embody your clothes with these sort of almost mythological elements. I'm always really interested in mythology and how to sort of have a prism where people open their minds and hearts by looking at what you're wearing. And I think fashion can do that when it's really well expressed, which you did. And I wondered how you came to this thing to do with proportion and how it reflects back about maybe how you feel about your own. Have you ever had an obsession about your own proportion? Because I certainly did, but I'm always captivated by how you show that in your work.
Well, distortion and exaggeration is always what I'm going for. And distorting the human figure is so much more profound than doing an embroidery that takes 7,000 hours. And I think it's braver, and I think the message is you can think outside the box, literally. When you exaggerate like that, you are promoting open-mindedness and acceptance and tolerance and all these great things. I've told this story a lot, how my physically I wasn't very satisfied with myself. I was very fleshy and I had little girl nipples, like jelly bean nipples. And I wanted, BB gun nipples. But anyway, I had soft jelly bean, not jelly bean, jelly.
Jelly tot, maybe?
Hmm?
Jelly tot? You know, jelly tots, they're like little domes.
Yeah, it was a
Well,
little dome. It was definitely a little dome. And I remember actually that when I was in early high school, I remember that I wanted to wear t-shirts, but I was embarrassed of them. So I would tape Band-Aids over my nipples because they puffed out so much. So there was that. And then my shoulders were very narrow and my hips were kind of wide. Then in my 30s, or late 20s, I think Michelle and I got together when I was 27 or 28. She kind of, she was going to the gym and so I started going with her. And so she kind of encouraged me to go to the gym because I was drinking so much too. She thought that I needed to sweat out the booze. So, which I did, which was a good idea. But anyway, then I got into that with a trainer and then I started taking steroids and totally changed my body. I mean, the steroids made me big and puffy, but they made the shoulders wider and they did things, the steroids. And then when I stopped taking the steroids, all of the puffiness evaporated, and all of a sudden underneath I had this new scaffolding. I
Wow.
had I had the BB gun nipples that I always wanted. I had pecs, I had shoulders, like it was magic. But changing my body like that, it changed my attitude about clothes. Like
Mm.
clothes didn't matter that much anymore because I felt like I had profoundly exaggerated and distorted um, myself in such a total way that that satisfied my need for adornment or for how I presented myself. Now, of course, I'm distorting to a ridiculous level. I mean, the shoulder pads, obviously, these aren't my shoulders, but and then recently, I was wearing in the summer, I was wearing very deep V-necks because my cleavage, my tits were so good, or they were at their peak. And I thought, this is as good as it's gonna get.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna like the V-neck's gonna get lower, the heels are gonna get higher, the shoulders are gonna get wider.
I think this is one of the joys of getting older, is that you just appreciate it so much more when it's there. You think, I have to show this because I'm just disappearing into the horizon. So I'm going
I
to, like that film, The Producers, where he screams out of the window, flaunt it, baby, flaunt it. And I believe in that more and more as time
I
goes
have to
past.
assault people with my tits while I can.
Definitely.
And now the hair is going but actually, when I look at it, this is kind of the hair that I always wanted because my hair was always like a little too thick and bushy and it was
Mm.
curly, so I had to have it chemically straightened all the time. And then it started thinning out. Now I have like a bit of a bald spot on the crown of my head. But I always liked Riff Raff from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And that's kind of the look that I'm going for, kind of like sleazy long hair. And I'm getting there. I'm getting that Riff Raff hair I was onto it like when I was 16. I was thinking Riff Raff, that's what I want to look like. So,
It's very angelic looking, your hair. I remember watching that video that you did with Tim Blanks where you're dyeing your hair in the sink and the cat comes along. And it's just so romantic and it was a great, great image. And your hair looked great in that.
that was one of those things where I thought, this is an opportunity to promote my values. I'm going to be this silly old queen dyeing his eyebrows that's gonna that is gonna tell some 16-year-old that this is what you can be and it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Um,
No, really, that message came through. I found it I got a lot from that. You can be how you are. Your own qualities are the things to, kind of live by or work up or validate, just instead of trying to do the airport on them and sort of homogenize. So I loved that film.
I
It
was
was
just listening to that music. The music to that is Sanson, the aria from Samson and Delilah. And for some reason on YouTube today, Klaus Nomi came up.
Oh,
singing that, which is the first time I ever heard it
I've
with
never
Klaus
heard that.
Nomi singing it. And
No.
I was really enjoying that song today.
Well,
And then I was
definitely.
thinking, because I started taking French. Um, I started taking French like a couple of weeks before Christmas. I was kind of thinking about what is my life about now, or what is it turning into? And I thought, Paris is kind of where it seems like I never thought about it because I'm always moving around so much, but I felt like this neighborhood and this house this is my place. This is where I feel this is home now. And I hadn't really thought about it, but because, maybe I was thinking before, is Italy home? Or is Miami home? But I kind of decided, looking around, I go, well, yeah, this is where I'm gonna be 80 and shuffle around, going to like cafes that they roll their eyes and they know that I'm going to order the same thing like that I've been ordering for the past 20 years. And I thought, well, I might as well learn French. And I also thought it was such an elegant thing to do during the day. I thought, I take a nap for an hour, I work out for an hour, taking French for an hour. That seems like an elegant, positive thing to do. Like, what are the best things in life? Learning.
Mm.
Learning is one of them. And I thought, after this, maybe I'll learn the piano. But learning is going to be one of the most satisfying things I can think of. Or cultivating a garden. Now, I don't know if I can do that. Cultivating a garden takes reserves of patience that I don't think I have anymore. Maybe I could train myself to do that, but um,
I think it's good to to learn the things that are slightly coming naturally, like you're in Paris, so learning French, and also I find that the sort of going in a different direction brings ideas to another place, and that's what I'm always looking for. How can I sort of Trojan horse activities? Like I'll end up somewhere, but the repercussion, I mean, I'm always hoping
mhm.
it repercusses into my till in my shop. So, but it isn't always a sort of straightforward direction. But can I ask you about how you start with an outfit? Because my father Lucien always started a painting with a point between the eyes, and I wondered where you start, or do you have a place you start with?
Oh, shoes.
Shoes, yeah, same.
Yeah, shoes and hair say it all. Like you can do anything else, but like shoe and hair, because those are the biggest commitments. Everything else can kind of fall into place, I think.
And if you fancy someone and don't like what they're wearing, does it kill your attraction to them?
Absolutely not. It almost perks it up. Um,
That's so good.
for one thing, the fact that they kind of have disregard for what I might consider attractive, or, well, no, let me rephrase that. If I see somebody with a very branded logoed bag, that would kill my attraction.
Mm-hmm.
I would think if the that kind of expresses their values to me in that world. And so, and I hesitate saying that because there is like there's a sense of disapproval there that I disapprove of. Um, but I can't help it. I mean, if there are certain bags that I think if you feel the need to align yourself with that kind of aspiration, we're probably not going to have a lot to talk about. But if somebody has but ugly clothes that have nothing to do with status consciousness, I'm intrigued. I love that they don't care about fashion and that they have other priorities. That's hot.
Yeah, there's something
So,
to be said for bad clothes.
yeah.
They're very charming, really, aren't they?
Hmm.
And even a logo bag, I suppose, on a kid who's so delighted by it, that's
Well, that's where
charming.
they
It's all,
belong.
yeah.
Children.
Yeah. And if you're feeling low, are there certain clothes that make you feel better?
I was telling him at the row, I was going, if I was a girl, I'd buy all this shit. This is great. It's beautiful and it's elegant and it's quality, 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 and thoughtful and thought through.
A friend of mine told me he masked his shyness with misbehavior. Have you tried that?
Probably.
Do you dress up or down if you're feeling shy?
Well, I always dress the same. I really only wear a certain look for a few years. I mean, I've been wearing this one for um, probably 5 years. It's always the platform boots, and platform boots because they're so ridiculous. They are such an affront to good taste. That's why I wear them. They're kitschy and they're camp. And then I just started wearing the wide-shouldered coats, and I have even in the summer, I wear the wide-shouldered coats, but they're in chiffon. But I like making a decision and sticking to it. I can't imagine having to make a choice every morning. I like being in one zone. And, there was a time, when I first moved to Paris, and I wore very ripped up clothes and boots, like these biker boots that were kind of falling apart, and army surplus clothes that were kind of patched together and over dyed black, but like a faded black. So everything was all the same kind of muddy tone. And I wore like cut off army cargo pants over sweatpants with either the biker boots or UGG boots that I had thrown in the washing machine with black dye. I realize now that it was a very adolescent rebellion against conservative values. And I was challenging the world with my unkemptness, and I was um, I was displaying my contempt of uh, of standard aesthetic values, um, and I see that I see that cycle. I see that cycle of dressing happening. Um, and I have great affection for it. I don't. I know exactly where it's coming from, and I remember going through that. But there's a certain amount of contempt in it that that bothers me now, or that I wouldn't really engage in it. But I understand where that expression comes from. Now I feel like I want to present something a little bit more formal and respectful. I think there was a snotty contempt then, and I think now there is a accepting formal politeness that I'm kind of reaching for. That's how I changed, I guess, in the past 20 years.
Because I've heard you talk about your father being very authoritarian, and I wondered how that showed up. Did he question your taste or confront you in your how you dressed, and what kind of an effect that had on you?
Oh, yeah, very much. I am such a reflection of him, and such a reaction, such a first degree reaction. We are such an obvious dynamic. And Michelle always gets irritated when my father comes up because she goes like, "Why do you always have to talk about your father?" And I'm going, "Well, because that's kind of all there was. That's She was in boarding school and she had a whole a big family, so her experience was very different. And I said, "But, you know, you didn't invent yourself, but you are a response to your boarding school. You're a response to the nuns that you were rebelling against." Um, so it's very similar, but I I have tremendous affection for my father. Uh, he was very dominating. He could be very cruel. He was a bully with me, and intellectually, he was a bully. He would corner me intellectually, and I would feel trapped and frustrated and demeaned, and but he was very damaged. And mom and I, we were both very dominated by him, and he could be kind of cruel, but somehow I think mom and I were both caretakers, and we both subliminally recognized how damaged he was and that he needed to dominate so badly. So we kind of went along with it, I think.
He clearly didn't crush you because you're so the opposite. I mean, you're so creative and um, you're so perceptive and understanding of things.
I've thought about it, like, if it was another person, they could have ended up very differently, but somewhere I had, like, this streak of aggression and rage in me that I have tried to become the opposite force of him in this world. I felt like, he was very much about judgment, about condemnation and dismissal and canceling. He was all about that. And so that's why I became so like I've become more ultra sensitive to it when I see it happening in the world, and I wanted to do something as a reaction.
Do you think that's when you started to see that clothes could be a tool in your life when you were really young because of how much your father tried to sort of control your thoughts and attitudes?
I guess, I went to art school to be a painter.
Really?
That's what I was gonna be. I was gonna be an artist. But we had these really stupid art theory classes that were so complex and so intimidating that I thought, "Oh, I'm not smart enough to be an artist, so I'm gonna do fashion instead because that looks like fun and I can handle it."
You did good. And as a child or when you were a younger person, do you remember something that someone else was wearing that seemed to bestow like a magical power on them? Because I
Well,
remember those moments, like from when I was about 8 and even younger than that, how certain garments seemed to be like a sort of a magic carpet almost. That
it all comes down to dad because, for all of his faults, the part that I didn't get to was that dad didn't allow, a TV in the house, and he had a
Mm.
vast library, and he felt that the library was good enough, and it was. So, in retrospect, of course, I benefited from that. Of course, it was an advantage that I didn't have a TV. And you know, if I were a parent, I don't know if I could be that harsh, but boy, it really worked for me. And there were a lot of Japanese art books because he had spent time in Japan during the war. He'd been a mail carrier in Tokyo, I think. Anyway, he had all of these Japanese art books with like mystical, abstract watercolors and all of this imagery of these kimonos and the exaggerated, or well, not exaggerated, but the hairstyles and the pageantry of those looks. So I think being exposed to that early on, it made me think, well, anything's possible. You can do anything you want, and the bigger, the better. And obies,
Yeah.
the the absolute perversity, because my mom was always obsessed with her waist. She was always wearing those tight dresses that had like either a belt or like a very tight waist. And so, and she was very voluptuous. So she was very Sophia Loren. And then when I looked at these Japanese clothes, there were these obies that created this volume right at the small of the back that obliterated a waistline. And that delighted me. And then the huge, useless sleeves dragging on the ground and everything dragging on the ground. So that's why I always have stuff dragging on the ground because it is so useless. And
That's so interesting.
yeah.
I remember investing this kind of obsessive interest into a girl's pink gingham shirt. I was on a summer camp, just a crummy one in England. And this girl had a pink gingham shirt, which she let me borrow. And it just seemed the perfect thing. It represented order, and my life was so chaotic. And my mother, she was so beautiful, and she sort of wore hippie things and stuff, but she didn't ever have much. And my father either dressed to paint in the studio, and if he went on the street, he just looked like a tramp, and a taxi never used to stop for him. But when he went out to dress, he'd wear these grey flannel suits that he had made in Savile Row, and I wanted to be like that. I didn't want to be the beautiful hippie with nothing. But this pink shirt was somehow everything, and I still really respond to that if I see it. It's so neat and kind of...
I'm checking it to see what you're wearing now.
Yeah, not that. I don't really have... I've tried it in my own collections, but it's not really enough anymore. But it represented so much, everything I wanted, really.
And then after that, I just remember Kiss and Bowie and Mark Bolan and those guys where anything was possible. I do remember wanting jeans at one point, and I think Mom got me some jeans that were polyester from J.C. Penney. And I knew they were the wrong jeans, but that's all I could get. So
did you have fights with your parents at all about wanting things that I suppose your father was saying no a lot, but did your mother indulge you in secret?
Oh yeah, Mom indulged me, and I don't really remember that many fights with Dad. I do just remember wearing these hash jeans. They were called hash jeans, and for some reason, the only place we could get them was in this little shop in Springville, up in the mountains. Bizarre, but they were kind of, maybe they would be called Elephant Bell, but they were big enough at the bottom so that they could cover your shoe. They were tight crotched and they kind of were high waisted.
I think we called those Oxford bags. Were they the same? Did you ever
I don't know
about Oxford
they were
bags?
called, yeah, I've heard about them, but they were, I feel in my head, Oxford bags were more tailored. And these were very fitted around the hips, and then they went straight from the hips to the floor. So they were kind of, but I do remember one time my dad walking past or something and saying, like, aren't those pants emphasizing your crotch a little bit too much? And I was like, well, yeah. I mean, I didn't say that, but I mean, of course, that was the whole point.
God, I remember someone's mother saying that to them. I think we were about 14 or something in this house in Scotland. And she said to her son, don't those trousers rather emphasize the gentleman's equipment? And then we all fell around laughing, but repeated that phrase like 100 times a day afterwards. It was a brilliant description. My therapist once said to me, it's good to be able to get over yourself. And you seem to, the way you talk about things, I mean, you mentioned ego, but it's good to have an ego, but you see, your ego seems to be amazingly agile, so that it's like an energetic force, and yet you seem free from obsessive insecurity that people associate with ego. And I wondered whether you'd studied that or made a conscious decision to be like that, or noticed it and how you wanted to be.
Oh, I thought I could have even gotten further along by now. There are moments where my ego gets in the way and I'm just horrified. I'm thinking, I thought I had reached, or I was hoping I would have reached a different level of serenity by now. But then this ego thing just kind of it shocks me. And then I have to forgive myself and go, well, everybody's just human. I mean, these are just dumb human impulses that you never really completely control, or you never learn how to completely control them. They're just going to come up. It's just, if you can recognize them and just kind of deal with them. But
Yeah, I was kind of shocked when he said that to me, and I could feel, the germination of like, God, how are you telling me to get over myself? And I'm sitting here. And then I realized it was a really good thing to remember, because when I do feel like confronted and I feel my pride offended or whatever it is, I think, I could get over yourself and see what's left, and then I can deal with that. And I'm much better equipped to deal with that if I want to, even if I want to get the sword out and chop their
yeah,
head
but
off.
then I'm thinking, why am I even having this conversation in my head? Shouldn't like my default setting just be serenity by now, after everything that I've looked at and tried to learn? Haven't I gotten further along by now?
But it's
My
much more fun when you are kind of, I find, like when these things come up, and
is it?
well, at least you talked about learning French, and
Yeah.
it's part of that, really. I find it interesting.
Yeah, there's these weird things that still come up. Like, for instance, public speaking. Like having to give a speech or present an award or something. I still can't do it. I still don't like doing it. And, I think to myself, it's just vanity that makes you so self-conscious. Like, what does it matter? Who cares? Like what you were saying, everybody's like busy in their own thoughts. They're not really obsessing over you. But then there's something about getting up in a room full of people and that energy, and it's just so uncomfortable. And I'm embarrassed that I'm uncomfortable because um, in my head it just doesn't make any sense.
But don't you find that, I know exactly what you're talking about, of course, but that sort of extreme uncomfortableness is also what produces ideas. It produces like how you decided to change your body, design your clothes. It is the agitator that produces ideas as well, even though it's almost sort of annihilating how much discomfort it produces as well. And I heard you talking about personal discomfort as well. And I suppose, is this what it means to you?
Um,
Or whether you were talking about your shoes hurting, or I don't think you were answering some really interesting questions on ID, which I watched, which are really,
I was
it was really
talking
great.
about Anthropomorph, Constantine. And Constantine, I discovered on Instagram because she was unhappy as a boy. And I could see there was a desperation in her expression, in what she was doing, because she was creating these masks, these flesh-colored masks that she was putting on herself, and there were no eyes on the masks, and they were in the shapes of these microorganisms. They were just flesh-shaped lumps. And I was so thrilled and inspired. I was thinking, this is somebody who is taking control of their destiny. They are unhappy with who they are. They are going somewhere to an outer planet. They are, and it was romantic and poignant. There were no eyes. It was just this shape. So I reached out, and I did some images with her, and then at some point she was ready for her transition, and she fulfilled her transition, and she sent me the first mask that had attracted me to her, that had made me approach her or reach out to her. She sent me the first mask because she doesn't need it anymore.
Gosh, it's
And
incredible.
I love having the mask, but I miss her. And I'm thinking, I was only reaching out because this was somebody under stress. And now that they've found their peace, I miss the person that was so frustrated, unhappy, and struggling and raging against the position that she found herself in. I miss that person, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm a predator. Anyway, it was just kind of
It's
an odd thing.
interesting
Yeah.
being part of someone, I suppose, being, walking. I often think of, the walking by the side of, like, my closest friend. We talk about the beauty alongside, and when we're going through stuff, we talk about other stuff that keeps us going, really. And
You talk about other stuff to each other?
yeah, like
Do you both acknowledge that you know that you're talking about other stuff to avoid talking about something else?
sometimes we know we do that, but we also do talk about the stuff that's so unbearable,
Yeah.
lots of what's happening now. But it's too intense so that we talk about what she's writing or what we've read, those things that are just like they're not whimsical. They are as intensely fierce as any kind of Alexander the Great chopping through the knot, which is something that I often think about and kind of kept me going as a child.
Well, there is such power in looking around you and tending to your own garden.
Mm,
That's what I see my work as,
yeah.
tending my garden.
So it
And
was
that's the most valuable thing I can do. And it's the most soothing for me, and it's the most, of course, I mean, it could have, if it hadn't worked out, that would, we would be talking, we would be telling a different story. But cultivating a garden, I mean, that's the best thing you can do. And cultivating a garden applies to raising children, having a family. That's cultivating a garden.
yeah, I know. I
There's a lot
suppose
of
it's
ways.
part of getting over yourself, isn't it? It's something else. Just
I could never be a parent. That is just, I don't know. That just seems overwhelming to me. I'm just too selfish.
But
I
it sounds like what you did for Constantine is a type of thing, a
I
parent.
do.
And you seem to do that for people.
I do get these paternal urges, and I do act on them.
And even making the clothes you do, you provide a service which is what I know as a mother. I have one son, and that's my kind of main focus, is to make sure he has what he needs to be able to fly off.
I do that too, but I feel like it's more vain. I feel like I'm seeking vengeance for the little sissy, the little scared sissy. But I mean, I am doing stuff to show little scared sissies what can happen,
Yeah.
that things can all work out. So, I mean, I do feel a responsibility there.
Also, whatever gets you to where you need to get to, whether it's some elements of vanity you learn along the path, or you're kind of undermined by vanity, but that doesn't seem to happen to you.
I wonder though, because, you know, changing my body was such a triumph. Now, having it change beyond my control, I'm not sure I'm going to be good with that. I'm not I'm not sure how that's going to work out.
I suppose it's the big thing, isn't it? I mean, also, you mentioned in your ID thing about sobriety, somebody asked you about it, and I wondered how you dealt with the self-consciousness of walking into a room without any mood changer, nothing to blunt the feeling, and whether that was a thing when it happened.
You know, I'm trying to remember back, but somehow in my head, I convinced myself that it was so cool not having to rely on anything, that nothing could be cooler than not having to hold a glass in my hand. I thought that is to be so self reliant and so confident that you don't need that stuff. What could be more glamorous and sophisticated than that? And so that somehow I was able to convince myself of that and it worked. I can't remember that transition, but yeah, not needing stuff is great.
Yeah, it's true. And it's great to have someone as creative as you, and how you manifest it and how you look and seem to be not needing anything, any stimulant. And because I think people associate sobriety with a sort of loss of something, but what you're describing is such a gain, and it's great. It's
Well,
inspiring.
but I don't walk into that many rooms anymore.
Do you come out at the end of your shows?
Yeah, but I don't socialize the way that I used to. I
Mm.
mean, I don't, I really don't circulate that much, and I don't visit people's homes. I mean, this was a fun excuse to come visit your home, but I don't really go visit people that I don't engage that much. Maybe because I don't drink anymore. I don't know.
I think there's a sort of confidence in that as well. And for a lot of people, you're a fashion icon, and to me too. And I wondered if you had a fashion icon, or even if you ever wear any other designer's clothes. Like maybe you're going to be wearing the Row tomorrow, but
Yeah, could be. You'll see me prancing around with that purse. Um, the thing that I was thinking of in the past kind of 5 years is that I thought, do I need to push myself more to engage? Do I need to participate in the world more? Because I remember a friend telling me something like, well, you need to challenge yourself. And I'm thinking, do I? I mean, I kind of got a lot done. I kind of did challenge myself. And do I am I maybe at the place where I don't need to challenge myself that much anymore? Maybe I can just kind of find the places that I'm comfortable with and just kind of indulge myself with that. Um, and as far as circulating goes, a lot of that, I wonder if a lot of that is about um, like younger people that I know that that pursue a social life a lot. My mom pursued a social life because she was a very social person who had grown up in a very full family, and she had a comfort level with crowded rooms. I didn't I didn't grow up like that. I grew up in a very isolated way, so it was a bit of an effort for me to be in a crowded room, and that's partly why I drank then. But now I've accepted that that is not my comfort level, and that's okay. And I have found such vast validation, more validation than I ever dreamed of, really. So that is so satisfied in a way that my need to circulate, it's not as intense as it used to be. Before I needed to be with people. I needed to be recognized. I needed to rub elbows. I needed to feel connected. Now I do feel connected. I feel like I was able to somehow on my own terms connect in such a bigger way than I ever thought possible. So yeah, I don't walk into that many rooms anymore, I guess.
Now you're free to learn French, and
Yeah,
it's
and just
fantastic.
accept beautiful invitations like this. So
Well, thank you so much, Rick. Thank you for sharing your fashion neuroses with me, and it's so lovely to watch you lying all the length of the sofa. And
I'm a little disappointed that I didn't burst into tears at some point, aren't you?
no, I'm happy with everything. It's been so great. Thank you so much.
It was my pleasure.